Why the hell don't people believe victims? Let's get into it. I'm Kirsty, I've got a psychology PhD and for the past 12 years specialised in the science of violence and gender bias. So if you've been paying attention to the Epstein files, some very harrowing accounts of abuse have just been released. His report is a little bit different. One, because he was so young. Two, because he's a man, or he was a boy. And three, there's substantial corroborating evidence, including video of him as a child. And still, you get comments like this on videos. And you only have to look around in the world to see so many cases of victims not being believed, being called liars, to understand that people just don't believe victims. And why is that? Well, there are 4 psychological reasons. One being that men lie on average more than women. Research supports this. They tell more white lies and black lies. White lies supposedly to benefit other people. Black lies to benefit themselves at the cost of another person. And so because something called the false consensus effect, or you overestimate how much other people also act or behave or think in the way that you do, because men are prone to tell more lies, they also assume that other people tell lies more often than they actually do. The second is deficits in empathy and perspective taking. So on average, men score significantly lower on measures of empathy. And what's interesting is actually this effect increases over time between men and women, which is actually good news because it means that men are socialized out of empathic responding as they get older, which means that we can train it back into them as children. The next reason that people don't believe victims is called the just world hypothesis. And people generally want to believe that the world is a good place because the alternative is quite scary. And so people tend to preserve their belief that the world is just and fair, especially if they haven't experienced any kind of violence or victimization themselves. It's easy to just assume, no, they're lying because that does not align with my worldview. And the last reason is something called cognitive dissonance. And this is when 2 ideas in the mind are conflicting. So the person has to choose one and ignore the other. So in this case, you've probably seen discussion around men saying, oh, well, if that's sexual assault, then everybody I know has done that. Yeah, that's kind of the point. People have a lot of misconceptions when it comes to sexual assault and coercive behavior and the acceptability of coercion. And so to acknowledge that so many women have actually been, or so many victims have been assaulted, would also mean to have to accept that the people around you, your brothers, your cousins, your friends, your fathers, your grandfathers, even you yourself, have actually perpetrated that against somebody else. Because that friction is too much, it's just easier to ignore the truth and to believe what is in alignment with your existing belief system. I'm a good person, I would never do something like that. Good people don't do things like that. And so you've got these 4 different mechanisms that just essentially serve to protect individual men by protecting them from any accountability or responsibility from their behavior. And it also serves the collective male interests and the patriarchy by minimizing the harm to victims. So victim credibility is never actually the issue. Men's psychological deficits and defense mechanisms are.